Tires. Checking for damage and wear. The first step is to check if there's any damage to the tire, around the rim, on the treads, or between the treads. The tires can be broken, cracked, or the treads could be worn. This can make traction harder to achieve and riding unsafe. The second step is checking the tube to see if the tube is punctured or badly maintained. That would look like a hole in the tube, but sometimes the hole is too small to see, or the tube could rip around one of its seams. A good way to check for punctures is to douse the tube with water, and any punctures will bubble up and you will hear air escaping. Another good way is to pick a spot on the tire, for instance the label, and roll the tire through your hands until you reach that spot again. While rolling the tire, feel for any bumps or holes. This could mean that the area is damaged. The third step is to check the valve. If the valve is broken, then air could escape, and this could cause a flat tire. To check the valve, listen and feel for escaping air. The fourth step is checking the spokes for breaks and bends. If you have a broken valve or broken spokes, you need to have a bike shop look at them and fix them. Patching a flat tire. After checking the tire and finding where the tube is punctured or broken, put the patch on the puncture or break. You can purchase a patch kit at any of your local bike shops. If the tire is punctured, you can use a boot. A boot is a covering for the hole. Any scrap of cloth or even a folded up dollar bill will work. You can also use a patch kit, which is a better solution for a long-lasting fix. If the hole in the tire is bigger than the head of a pin, you need to patch it so that the tire doesn't squeeze through and burst.
Now we're going to change a flat tire. It's almost always on the back. Why? Because the back is the hardest one to change, and that's just the dirty trick. But nonetheless, we have this bike here. It's got a flat tire. It really doesn't. It's a brand new bike. We're pretending. In any case, the tire's flat. So because it's on the back, most of you will have multi-gears in the back. 10, 11 speed, or whatever your bikes happen to be. But in order to change this wheel, to change this tire and get it off easily, we need to shift the sprocket. We need to shift the chain, to the smallest sprocket. That'll make it super easy. So I'm going to do that real quick, maybe out of the picture. So now our chain is hopped down onto the smallest sprocket. That will make it really a lot easier to change this wheel. Also, most bikes have a way to open up the brakes so that the wheel can slide out easily. This particular bike has a gizmo on the top. You squeeze it together, you pull the cable out, you can see it right there, and the brakes flop out. That's going to let our wheel come out pretty easily, and you'll watch as you'll see. This bike has a quick release, which I hope your bikes do too. Most of the good bikes do. By holding my finger, like a trigger finger, on the end of the axle, this little round button out here, I'm going to hold it and put my thumb on the frame. I'm going to hit the quick release lever. It's very hard on this one. I got it loose. And now, I'm going to hold the wheel with my hand and let go with my finger that I was holding it, and the wheel drops right out. Very simple. See that? Notice how the sprocket is between the top and the bottom run of the chain. I'm going to let it pull it a little sideways, and the wheel comes right out. So now we have the wheel out in our hands. We know it's flat because I let the air out of it, and we're going to change the tube, the inner tube. All bikes have inner tubes nowadays. Virtually all bikes have inner tubes. Surely yours will. So the idea is to have the proper inner tube to replace inside this tube, inside this tire. We have two tubes here that I've brought. Both of them are for the size wheel that we have here, which is a 700C wheel, which is the modern, most common size for bikes for the road. And then it shows another set of numbers, in this case 28 to 38. Well, I know by looking at the side of the tire which size I need because it's printed right on the tire. In this case, it's printed right on the top, 700 by 32. The 32, the last number, is how fat the tire is. This is a medium-sized tire. It's not a big fat one, it's not a little skinny one, it's in the middle. But we need to get in that size range. The tubes I selected cover that, 28 to 38, so that 32 is right in the middle. So the other question is, what kind of valve does my bike have? You'll see that these show the picture of the type valve. This is a valve that you would see in an automobile, or a motorcycle probably, and it's called a Schrader valve, and most bikes have that. There's also the European style valve that's called a Presta valve, and it's a little skinny valve. Luckily, we do not need it in this case, so we're going to use the Schrader valve tube. Take it out, take a peek at it. It's all folded flat, and it's a big loop. You've probably seen inner tubes before, but that's what they look like. This one has a plastic valve cap on the outside, which this wheel had when I took the air out of it. It also has a little metal ring that's got a use that I'll tell you about when we're reinstalling it. And I'm going to take both of those off. So I'm going to set our tube, I'll just hang it here on the bike. It's ready to be installed in that wheel. So we go to the wheel, and I have two tools out here. There are many tools used for bicycle flat tire repair. There's a great big monster one, this one for instance. This is for pulling the tire off the rim, but we don't need that. I like this tool. It's called a zip quick stick. And it's very simple. Watch me how I do it. I'm going to go to a point at the rim, and I'm going to insert the tool up inside and catch the inner lip of the tire. By levering it down, you can see it's pulling the tire right off the rim at that point. Now there's other kits that have multiple tools. You go to another point, and you take the tire off. But this quick stick, all you have to do is push it away from you, and it will take the tire right off. Watch this. Zip, 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 right around until that side of the tire is completely off the bike. And up inside here is the inner tube that we're going to replace. And we're going to assume this one has a hole in it from a piece of glass, from a rock bruising it, from a metal staple or a nail. Something made this tube go flat in our imagination. Remember, this is really a good one. Take the tube right out, whoink, and there's the old tube that we're going to put aside. Now, if we wanted to, and in the old days, we used to put a patch on tires and tubes. Patches are good and they work, but they're not 100% reliable. So if you're way out in the boonies in the woods, or out on a trail, or out on the road someplace, I think it's better to put a new tube in it. That way you know you're going to get home safely. If you patched the tube and it didn't hold, you'd be doing the same thing a few miles up the road. So if you want to patch tubes, I'd say wait till you get home and patch that old tube and use it again as a spare. So I got the tire out. I'm only taking one side off. I'm leaving the other side on, still attached to the rim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers, which are amazing things. The human finger is amazing. It's so sensitive. And I'm going to go around and feel inside that tire all the way around to see if there's that stick or the nail or the piece of glass, whatever it is that made our hole, is still inside there. If you didn't find it, you also imagine what could happen. Then you'd start to ride up the road and you'd have another flat. So if you go all around and just feel, you don't have to see anything. In fact, you probably couldn't see it. But your fingers are so sensitive, they'll pick up almost anything inside that tire. I'm going all around, and oh, what if I felt a little ping? I would know to look right at that spot. I could take a pair of pliers, I could take a point of a penknife or something, I could pry that little piece out and clear the space and make it safe. So once I've investigated the whole thing, I know I'm good to go. The other thing I can look at while I'm doing that is down inside the rim to make sure there's a piece of tape or cover on the top of the spoke heads. In this case, it's a white piece, goes all the way around. So it's always smart to go around and make sure that thing is where it's supposed to be. Every once in a while, you'll find one that's moved and pushed aside and it shows a sharp place, or maybe it's broken altogether. But in any case, you need to double check that before you reassemble your tire. So we're all set pretty much. We've checked for spots, we've checked the rim tape. Now we're going to put the new tube in. So I'm going to grab the new tube and get ready to insert it. So here's the next trick. Start at the valve, wherever the valve hole is. Here it's hiding up here. It's nicely marked with an orange stripe in this one. Start at the valve and take your tube and stick it out like that. Find a hole and insert it down in the valve hole. Simple enough, right? Then we'll start to lay the tube up inside the tire rim and all the way around in a full circle. And of course, it's going to be floppy at first. Oops. We're going to get that the outermost rim out, and we can start pushing that tube up inside all the way around. It's good to have it lay as flat as you can, but it's not essential to be perfectly flat. Just so long as it gets up in the space it's supposed to be in. Round and round and round she goes. We're almost halfway around. Looks like it's mostly inside the rim. Now I'm doing it on its side like this because that allows gravity to allow the tube to kind of fall down in the cavity space that it needs to be in. We're making progress. We're in the last 6 or 8 or 10 inches, and there's the last piece of tube in. Okay, so now our tube is totally inside the tire. There's one little place poking out. I'll punch him in. And we'll feel it around, make sure there's another little place trying to peek out. So now I'm going to start putting the second tire, the second side, back on. And I'll start at the valve again and pop it up on the valve, up on the rim, and start working it around. Now here's a place where the tube is trying to poke out. Before I get there, I'll kind of push him up in there. And you can go in either direction, it really doesn't matter. In the end, it's all about the same distance. This is a pretty easy tire to change. Some of them are much more difficult, and some of them are much easier yet. And there, whoops, I should have showed that. Well, let me pop it off again. So when you get to this last little place that the tire has to go back on the rim, sometimes it can be very hard. You can't get it on. Do not use the tool to put it on. Only use your fingertips, because that tool is liable to pinch the tube and make a hole, and you have to start all over again. So the best way to do it is to get around behind the tire and let your fingers roll in the tactile quality of your fingers. Let it pull it up and kind of push and slide the tire up. And pretty soon you'll find, whoops, it's running around, it's coming off, and you'll find it'll go all the way on with just your fingers. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge, but you should be able to get it. Now it's completely inside, the tube is completely inside the rim. The next big secret, trick, important. The valve should be grabbed at this point and pushed up inside the tire, slightly, not until it disappears, just enough. And right now, it's resisting me, it's not going. That means a little piece of the tube is stuck, one side or the other. So I'm going to have to very carefully push it up till it pops. Boink! It popped. Now pull it back down. Now this is the way it should be. See that way that little tube will go in and out? Now if I hadn't done that and had put full pressure in here, it would have blown off the rim right there. So it's super important that you make sure that valve can do that before you put air in it. And we can take our little silver ring that I took off earlier, our little silver nut really, and run it up there to keep our valve in position when we go to put air in it. So now we're ready to put air in the tires. So we're going to march over to the compressor here, or if we had a pump, or out on the road, we could put air in it right now, and it would probably do just dandy. So here we are ready to put air in the tire, making sure we did a good job in replacing the tube. I've got a floor pump here we're going to use. There's a lot of different ways to put air in it. You could use a compressor, or you could use whoops, as it pumps down. You could use a pump that you carry on your bike, or if you're lucky, you have one of these frame pumps, these floor pumps at home that you can use that makes it a little bit easier. This has two holes in the head, one for this style valve, one for the other kind of valve. This is the bigger one, so I'm going to pick the bigger hole. I'm going to push it on the valve very firmly and then pull up the lever so that the air will be able to be locked in. And pumping it up, let's see if I can get it untangled here. We'll start pumping it up. It should go almost immediately in. Of course, I'm on the floor. It's easier than this, but I want to show you guys what's involved. That's funny. And of course, there's a valve on here that will show you a gauge. It will show you how much air is going in. And it's got at about 20 pounds or so. And that's enough for our first thing. I'm going to take the gauge back off, the head back off, pulling it straight off. Don't wiggle it when you take it off. Tighten up our little ring again. And now, I'm going to spin the tire and sight it to make sure that tire is correctly seated in the rim. There's little ridges molded in the tire that should run exactly in the same path as the silver part of this rim. So if I sight it, spin it like this, and watch it from this angle, I can see how it's going. And I see a little lumpiness in this one. Let me look at the other side. Not too bad really. But I mean, so if I found a place that was bumpy, I could pull it up, or I could wiggle it in, I could change it, and make it seat itself better. But once I'm satisfied with that, I can go ahead and put a full blast of air, and I might do this on the floor rather than try to bounce it up here to show you guys, so that we can get the proper air in here. Pushing the valve way on, clamping it down, and how about if I move over here to pump it up. Put your foot on the pump. One thing to remember when you're pumping up tires is most of the pressure comes from the last couple of inches of the stroke down at the bottom. So you have to push it all the way down every time if you want to get good pressure. And it's a little bit of a workout, even with a floor pump. Two hands is better than one. And now I've got about 65 pounds, which is enough for this bike. Let's pull the valve off, straight off, not wiggle it. And now our tire is full of air. Our little silver ring, we're going to run that all the way down. We're going to replace it with our cap, and we're going to put it on the bike. Now we put it back on the bike. So we come around behind the bike. We've got our sprockets on the right side, where they were before. We're going to run it up behind it, and we're going to make sure that the wheel gets between the top and the bottom rung of the chain. Then I'm going to just sight it with the same sprocket I took it off and start pulling it up, up, up. I'm watching, I'm not bumping into the frame. Oops, it hopped off the sprocket. Oh, I see it again. There you go. So up, up, up. Let's go. Here we go. There we go. Up into the frame, and now it's in position. So I have to tighten it. I have my left hand on the quick release, right where it was before. I squeeze it down, and it's in place. I'm going to go up and reattach the brakes. If you're not sure how your brakes quick release, don't hesitate to ask the bike shop to point out how you do it on your particular bike. There's a lot of different ways that the brake quick releases. And check the gears, make sure they work. And we have fixed a flat tire.
First, your chain should be on the gears. If it is not, lift up the chain and put it back on the gears. If your chain is broken, use a chain tool to take the bolt out from the section of broken chain and remove that section, and then shorten the chain by using the chain tool to attach it to the next section. This will make it harder to change gears and will act as a temporary fix. So after your ride, you will need to get a replacement section of chain. If you are mountain biking, you probably should carry a chain tool with you, but for road biking, it comes down to personal preference. To clean the chain, wipe it down to remove the grease and use an old toothbrush to get out the larger congealed chunks of debris. The lubricant should be silicone-based. To use it, put a drop on each chain section and then wipe off the excess. A good example of this is if you think about lubricating your chain like you'd put sunscreen or lotion on your body. If you put too much lotion on your body and it cannot be absorbed, you then touch sand and sand will stick to your body. But if you rub off the excess lubricant and allow it to dry, then sand, dirt, and road grime will not stick to your chain. You should lubricate weekly when it is dry or right after it rains.
Brakes. Alignment issues. To realign mechanical brakes, loosen the main anchor bolt. Pull up on the brake blocks and then put them back down again so that they don't ride above the rim of the tire or fall below it. The front end of the brake should be towed in so that it hits the tire first. If brakes are not aligned correctly, they will make terrible screeching sounds and will not work very well. This is very dangerous and could lead to accidents. Lubricating brakes. To lubricate the brake system, you must lubricate the brake levers and the brake calipers. To lubricate the calipers, you should put a drop of silicone-based lubricant on them and wipe up the excess. You should do this monthly. To lubricate the levers, you should put a drop of lubricant on them, but there is no need to wipe up the excess because it will all get used. This should be done twice annually with a silicone-based lubricant. Gears. Keeping clean. To keep your gears clean, you should keep debris out of them. If your chain is properly lubricated, then your gears will most likely stay clean. Checking your shifters. Before every ride, make sure your shifters are in proper working condition. If you have trigger shifters, make sure that you can move the triggers with your thumb so that you know they are properly aligned. If you have grip shifters, then you should be able to twist the grip. Never change gears when the pedals are stationary. Seats. Checking seat height. If the seat height is correct, then your knee on the lowest point that your pedal can be should be slightly bent, and your knee on the highest point that the pedal can be should be bent at approximately a 90-degree angle. Adjusting seat height. There is a lever on the base of where the seat post meets the bike frame that you can use to raise your seat up or down to the needed height. On some bikes, you need to use a hex key to adjust the seat height. Also, your seat shouldn't be extremely angled up or down. To make sure it is at the correct angle, use the lever found under your seat. Your seat should always be aligned with the bike frame.
This video has addressed a lot of bike maintenance issues, but there are times when it's best to consult a professional. To get to know your experts at the local bike shop, they are the key to keeping you on the road and the trails. Today I'm here with Dale Brown, the owner of Cycles de Oro in Greensboro, North Carolina. So Dale, what are most of the common problems that people come along with bike maintenance? Is it lack of skills or improper use of tools?
Well, I think it's lack of skills, because tools that we can use for bike maintenance are basic tools like the screwdriver, a set of pliers, an adjustable wrench, tools that you're probably going to have at home. The skills are something you're going to have to learn. That's the trick.
what are some of the problems that are best left for the pros? Because I would think it would be something like the frayed cables for the brakes or the gear shifters being off. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I think you can simplify it by saying if it's external, if it's on the outside of the bike, cables, gears, brakes, pedals, handlebar position, seat position, all those things can be easily done by anybody on their own. If you need to go to the shop, it's probably going to be something internal, inside of the shock forks, inside of the frame, the bearings, the ball bearings being repacked. Those are the things you really need to let the bike shop do because it takes very special tools and a lot of special skill.
Since there are so many bikes these days, what type of bikes would you want to have, and how would you know which bike you want to have, which type?
Well, there are a lot of types of bikes. There's mountain bikes, there's road bikes, there's hybrid bikes, there's cyclocross bikes, and there's all kinds of bikes in the middle. So the first thing a rider needs to know is how they're going to use their bike, exactly where they're going to ride, who they're going to ride with. And once you have that information, you can study it yourself, you can go online, or you can go to the bike shop and look at the actual bikes and get the staff to help you understand which type does what and why. So again, the bike shop is not a bad choice.
So Dale, when do you know when you've outgrown your bike or you need a new bike?
Good question. Bike fit, how you fit your bike or how your bike fits you, is super important and if it's easy to ride. You can ride a bike, but whether you're working a lot harder than you need to is all due to bike fit. You can tell yourself the bike size by seeing if your leg extension is complete with the pedal all the way down with your saddle adjusted. And you can tell if the handlebars are easy and comfortable in your reach. But that's still only ballpark. Again, if you want help, if you want to know the real deal, go to a bike shop, have them look at you on your bike and evaluate your fit. You might be perfectly fine with the bike you have, just a few adjustments, and you'll be able to ride very well. Or it might be time for a new bike. But that's a way to find out at a bike shop.
Well, thank you, Dale, for all your help today. And either if it's for the good or for the bad, I'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Everyone should wear a helmet. According to North Carolina law, all cyclists under the age of 16 must wear helmets. Every state has a helmet law in some capacity except Illinois and Iowa. This means pretty much everywhere you go, you must wear a helmet. To check the fit of your helmet, place it upon your head and adjust the length of the straps so that they fit your face. The ring on the inside of the helmet helps with having the helmet fit tight on your head. If it doesn't fit snugly, then the helmet will not work for you. A good check to see if your helmet fits is if you can just see the edge of the visor when it is on your head, if the Y-straps on the side of the helmet meet just below your ear, and if the chin strap is tight enough that when you open your mouth, you feel the helmet get tighter. If it fits, it will not slip around on your head, and if it hits your forehead, that means that it touches the head the entire way around, is stable on your head, low enough to cover the sides of your head, and stable enough to not slide around. 52 to 60% of bike-related head injuries can be prevented by wearing a helmet. If the helmet does not fit, then you need to get a new helmet. You should always wear a bike helmet, not a helmet designed for another use. Baseball and football helmets are designed to protect your head from balls and players bashing into your head. You shouldn't be playing ball while riding or bashing heads with other cyclists. So choose a helmet designed for what you will be doing. And remember, helmets go on your head, not on the shelf. Make sure to check your tire pressure before each ride. When inflating your tires, make sure that you inflate them to the level specified on the tire. For riding on the road, your tires should be very firm. For riding on trails, you should have the tire be a little less firm to prevent punctures. First, you need to know what type of valve you have, pressure or the more common Schrader valve. Many bike pumps now come with a nozzle adapter for the Presta valves, or you can keep a little metal valve adapter on your Presta valve. To use a tire pump, remove the valve cap, secure the nozzle on the valve, and pump air into the tire. If you have a Presta valve, you first have to open the valve before putting the nozzle on, And be careful because it's very easy to completely deflate your tire in moments if you have a Presta valve. Once you have the desired air pressure, remove the nozzle, close your valve if you have a Presta valve, and replace your valve cap. It is smart to carry a small travel pump that you can attach to your frame so you always have a way to pump your tires. You should always wear shoes when on a bicycle, scooter, or any other wheeled vehicle. If you don't wear shoes, then you will have less traction on the pedals, and if you fall, you will get seriously injured. Your shoelaces should be short because if they are not, then they will get stuck in the gears and chain, which would be dangerous. You shouldn't wear baggy pants because they could get stuck in the gears and chain, which would cause you to crash. A crash would be detrimental to your health. If you must ride with baggy pants, then you can use a rubber band or strap to secure your pants tightly to your leg. When there is a bike lane available, ride in it on the right side of the road. While riding in the bike lane, maintain a steady pace and be aware of cars and other cyclists. If there is no bike lane, stay close to the curb on the right side of the road or right on the sidewalk. You should always watch out for bumps or cracks in the sidewalk because they could cause you to lose control and fall into the street. Sidewalk biking laws are different for every city, but for most cities it is illegal and punishable by a fine. However, sidewalk biking is up 56% since 2006. While riding, make yourself visible to others by wearing bright clothes and attaching lights to your bike. Blinking lights are the most visible. To signal that you are turning, use your left hand to turn right. Hold your left elbow at a 90-degree angle to your body. To turn left, hold your left arm at a 180-degree angle from your body. When you are going to pass somebody, say on your left or ring your bell to let the other rider know that you are there and want to pass them. They should slow down to allow you to pass. To pass a parked car, don't swerve around them at the last minute. Before you get to the car, you should drift out so that you can pass the car. Then after passing, return to the bike lane or the side of the road. Be very careful and leave room so that if a car door opens unexpectedly, that you don't run into it. Avoid gutters, grates, and gravel in the road. To cross train tracks, bike carefully at a 45-degree angle. Biking on greenways and trails, be aware of other cyclists, pedestrians, and dogs. When you are going downhill on the trail, yield or stop for people going uphill. North Carolina bike laws state that cyclists must ride on the right, like other traffic, must obey traffic signs, use hand signals to tell what they are going to do, yield to pedestrians, have a front lamp visible 300 feet and a back lamp visible for 200 feet. Under 16 years old must wear a helmet. Children under 40 pounds or 40 inches must be in a child seat, and you can't bike on interstates. Check out bikeduke.com for North Carolina bike safety laws.